My 3-year-old electric scooter's battery was jacked. I spent 3 grueling days and nights roasting the thief on my social media. Out of nowhere, my neighbor old lady Lynn cornered me downstairs, right in front of a growing crowd. She suddenly collapsed and dropped to her knees before me. She wailed, "I'm the one who swiped your battery." I accidentally triggered a massive explosion while charging it inside. My entire family is rotting in a hospital bed right now. I desperately need the original invoice for that battery of yours. Can you find it in your heart to save my family? I let out a cold sneer. Hand over the invoice so she can pin the entire disaster on me. You want me to pay for your crime with my life? Is that it? The moment I first realized the battery was missing, I was absolutely floored. Are you freaking kidding me right now? Look, guys, I literally just went home for a power nap during my lunch break. By the afternoon, I was stranded and couldn't even make it to the office. Clinging to my last shred of corporate professionalism, I filed for a half day of emergency leave. Then I stormed into the property management office like a hurricane, demanding immediate access to the security footage. Even if my scooter is a total relic, I bought that thing during my rookie year of work, with my very first hard-earned paycheck. This year has been a total dumpster fire, and now my only ride is gone for absolutely nothing. When I barged in, fueled by pure desperation, it was the exact moment the lunch hour was wrapping up. With a jacket slung carelessly over her chair, the woman dozing there was jolted awake in a panic. With her hair looking like a bird's nest, she glared at me with a look of pure hostility. Fine, what damn footage are you looking for? Sensing my murderous aura, she quickly added, "Look, batteries have been getting snatched left and right lately." We put out an alert in the group chat and plastered notices in the shed, telling owners to stay vigilant. We've repeated it 1,000,000 times. Were you just not paying attention? I was so livid I actually laughed. Paying attention to what? Your management team is useless. You don't call the feds to catch the rats. Nor do you bother upgrading these ancient cameras. You seriously think a post-it note is going to stop a thief from looting? And then you have the nerve to dump the liability on the owners. Are you suggesting I should haul my entire scooter and the battery up to the 5th floor every night and lock it in a high-security vault just to be safe? The woman was so fuming, she was left completely speechless, lodged in her throat. She jabbed a finger toward the monitor. Go watch it yourself. Just stay out of my face. If we're dissecting our neighborhood's management staff, they're the type to treat a tiny bit of authority like a divine mandate. They constantly harass the residents for no reason. They're nowhere to be found when a crisis actually hits, but the moment it's time to shake us down for fees, they crawl out of the woodwork like clockwork. Landscaping charges, sanitation fees, parcel storage surcharges, visitor parking tolls, you name it. They have the absolute gall to bill it. And yet in this allegedly high-end gated community, my scooter's dying battery managed to vanish into the void during a mere lunch break. And this happened in broad freaking daylight. Usually I definitely give her a piece of my mind, but right now I'm so stressed about my ride that I have zero energy to waste on her. I lunged toward the computer. I frantically scrubbed through the footage until I hit the exact timestamp where I appeared on screen. The clock struck 12 p.m. I had just clocked out for my break. It's only a 10-minute sprint from the office to my place, and I wasn't due back until 3 p.m. Who wouldn't rush back for a quick power nap? Fortunately, the security cam did record me parking the bike and clearly showed the scooter's condition. But the bad luck didn't stop there. Due to years of sun-wind exposure and general structural decay, the camera's original vantage point had long since drifted. It should have framed the entire chassis of my scooter, but now it only displayed the handlebars and the basket. To make matters worse, the battery compartment was completely obscured by the windshield cover. That low-life battery thief was operating right under the shadow of my windshield quilt. He was calmly extracting the loot, looking so nonchalant in practice that any bystander would have assumed he was the owner, tinkering with his own property. Pure unadulterated rage boiled in my chest. The woman nearby leaned in to spectate, her face twisted with a hint of petty satisfaction at my misery. This camera really has a talent for missing the target. I shot her a sharp, disdainful glare and began dissecting the footage frame by grueling frame. Sure enough, in a small gap, where the windshield quilt failed to obscure everything, I spotted a distinct tuft of white hair. I whipped out my phone and fired off shots, desperately trying to immortalize the evidence. While I was capturing the proof, I wondered, white hair. A white-haired suspect, could it be one of those 13 or 14-year-old punks, delinquent punks prowling the streets? But there are countless uneducated, bottom-feeding thieving brats everywhere. Where would I even begin to hunt them down? The investigation hit a complete dead end. Since a measly battery is valued at under $1,000, it didn't even meet the threshold to file a formal case. The cops refused to lift a finger, leaving me with no choice but to choke down my frustration. I figured it was just my miserable luck to be targeted. With the battery snatched, I couldn't stand the sight of the bike without getting depressed. I sold the hollowed out shell of the scooter for peanuts. I resorted to using those shared rental bikes for my commute, At least it's budget friendly and counts as a workout. Talk about making the best of a trash situation. But don't get it twisted, I wasn't about to let the thief off easy. I absolutely annihilated that battery thief on my social media timeline. I kept the digital firestorm going for 3 straight days. Just as I finally accepted that the saga was finished, on a random morning a month later, I was preparing for the daily grind. I stepped out a bit earlier than usual, hoping to snag a decent rental bike. The moment I exited the apartment complex, I was intercepted by an old lady with frazzled graying hair. It was the peak morning rush with a sea of people, everyone sprinting toward their destination. I was abruptly yanked to a dead stop. I scowled at her in confusion. "Is there something you need?" She looked like she was running on fumes, her eyes weary and severely bloodshot. Noticing my bewildered expression, she visibly grit her teeth in desperation. Right in the middle of the crowded sidewalk, she collapsed and hit the pavement on her knees with a heavy thud. The shock instantly jolted me out of my morning fog, and every bystander around us was equally paralyzed. I frantically lunged forward to pull her up. "Ma'am, get up. What on earth are you doing?" But her next display, a messy explosion of tears and snot, instantly made me regret reaching out to help. She clamped onto me with one hand, while violently thumping the pavement with the other. She was a carbon copy of those unhinged old women, throwing a hysterical tantrum in a low-budget soap opera. She wailed with agonizing bitterness, choking out through her sobs, "Young man, it's me. I'm so sorry. I live in the apartment block right next to yours." I scraped together a living by scavenging for scraps. That afternoon, just after I finished scouring the trash bins in your building, I was possessed by greed and hauled your battery home, intending to keep it for my own use. A few days later, while I was charging it in my living room, your battery spontaneously detonated because of quality defects. The blast severely mangled my son and my husband. I had to strain every nerve just to decode her rambling. "Wait, is this old lady seriously trying to extort me?" Sensing my growing suspicion, she suddenly began to hyperventilate, frantically wiping the grime and tears from her eyes. "I'm not asking you to take the fall or pay for the damages. I just need you to hand over the original purchase invoice from when you first bought that scooter. After all, the root of this tragedy was your battery, wasn't it? Look, I'll take the fight to the manufacturer myself." She kept placing a heavy, suspicious emphasis on the specific phrase, "your battery." A sickening, ominous knot started twisting in my gut. Staring at her pathetic state, I felt my resolve beginning to crumble. But just as I was about to cave in and agree, I noticed a crowd of neighbors hovering to watch the drama. A few who recognized me gave me a subtle warning shake of their heads. I forced myself to cool down and analyze the trap. They were right. The bike is history, so I should just let it go. If I involve myself in this mess, who's to say she won't bleed me dry for every cent? Or pivot the entire legal blame onto my shoulders later? I'd be walking straight into a life-ruining nightmare. Instantly, I reflexively yanked my hand back in a firm refusal. "Ma'am, you've definitely targeted the wrong guy. I don't even own an electric scooter. I rely strictly on shared rental bikes for my daily commute." As the words left my lips, I brandished the glowing green rental app on my phone screen. Hearing my blatant denial, she looked absolutely paralyzed with shock. She stared at me paralyzed with shock before stammering, You actually... I paid her no mind, sprinting straight toward the nearest neon green rental bike. I scanned the QR code and pedaled away like a madman. While commuting, I shot a text to my childhood friend about the morning's insanity, desperate for some actual perspective. "Are you for real? You actually entertained the idea of handing over that invoice? You'd better find that neighbor who warned you and thank him for your life. If you had stupidly handed her that paper, you would have been digging your own damn grave." I let out a heavy sigh. As my friend Shishi broke down the cold hard reality, the more I listened, the more my skin started to crawl. Turns out this old lady wasn't the tragic victim she pretended to be. In reality, that explosion was triggered entirely by her own grossly negligent and illegal actions. The manufacturer wouldn't be liable for a single cent. The second she got her hands on that invoice, besides confirming the battery belonged to me, it wouldn't serve any other purpose. Her ultimate endgame for obtaining that document was to pin the entire catastrophe squarely on my shoulders, giving her the legal ammo to sue me into oblivion for damages. Since a disaster occurred and someone was maimed, she needed a sacrificial lamb to take the fall. It's true what they say, the player is blind, but the spectator sees the trap. After hearing my friend's brutal deduction, I was beyond livid. My blood was absolutely boiling. A common thief actually had the audacity to try and frame the victim this shamelessly. I assumed she'd vanish after I shut her down. But the next day, at the exact same time and place, she was lurking like a predator ready to pounce on me again. "Listen, young man, please show some mercy and have some compassion for me. My son suffers from cerebral palsy, and my husband is just a lowly sanitation worker. Our entire survival depends on the scraps I scavenge for cash. Now they're both trapped in hospital beds, and I'm drowning in medical bills I can't pay. At any moment, the hospital will terminate their treatment and toss them into the street." She wailed and shrieked hysterically, drawing a massive judgmental crowd of bystanders. A mob of people who didn't know the first thing about the truth immediately started pointing their fingers at me. Young man, show some mercy while you still have the chance. She already confessed to her mistake, so just hand over the invoice. Don't you dare say that. If you feel such overwhelming pity for a thief, try getting your own property jacked and see how you feel. Haha, if you're asking for my take, this is nothing but pure unadulterated karma. Everyone in the mob was chiming in with their unsolicited opinions, though Mother Lin's face flushed a deep crimson and then went pale, as her expression shifted through a dozen emotions. She never once loosened her iron grip on my hand. Suddenly, a girl's sharp voice cut through the crowd. Oh, if it isn't Mother Lin herself. What was swiping packages in your own hallway not enough for you? That you've pivoted to jacking people's batteries now? Mother Lin's mask of distress evaporated in an instant. She suddenly lunged up from the pavement, barreling through the onlookers to charge at the speaker. Let me see which little brat has the nerve to slander me. Didn't your mother teach you to respect your betters? And show some grace to the elderly? The old hag and that woman started a violent scuffle. The entire scene descended into absolute chaos for a moment. I seized the opportunity to vanish. The following day, the third day, the fourth day, every single morning after, she ambushed me in the exact same spot. She was hell-bent on coercing me into surrendering the invoice, screaming that it was the only way to save her family's lives. The more she relentlessly harassed me like this, the more a cold sense of dread washed over me. After my final and most unambiguous refusal, she completely lost her mind right then and there, and straight up dialed 110 for the police. She shrieked that she was calling them to let the law deliver justice to a heartbeat. Fine by me, let them come. In all my years on this earth, I've never seen a thief have the audacity to play the victim before. A few minutes later, the police pulled up. One was a veteran officer, the other was a rookie. When the duo arrived, Mother Lin was clearly exhausted from all the kneeling, so she was just lounging on the dirty ground. I mirrored her move perfectly, and plopped my own butt down on the pavement too. The police scowled at the sight of us. Why are you two sitting on the ground? Explain exactly what's happening here. Before I could utter a word, Old Lady Lin scrambled toward them like a maniac and scurried right over to the officer's feet. Her movements were surprisingly more agile than my own. Officer, please. You've got to protect us defenseless old ladies who just try to survive on scraps. This man has been harassing me right at my own doorstep. He's an absolute monster, I tell you. The second the words left her mouth, the rookie officer rushed to hoist her up, all while glaring at me as if I were some kind of criminal. I just crossed my arms, watching with pure disdain to see what pathetic stunt she'd pull next. Oh, so now the villain is playing the victim first. The officers helped her stabilize. Take it easy, ma'am. Just tell us exactly what transpired. We won't let any wrongdoer get away with this. She sobbed, leaning into them for drama. Life is so brutal for me. I'm pushing 70 years old. Yet I'm still out here hauling cardboard every day just to eat. My son is crippled and frail, and my husband is a complete deadweight. She wailed and carried on for an eternity, deliberately dodging the actual facts. Instead, she just kept doubling down on the pity party. The officer's expression shifted, growing impatient. So, what is the actual nature of the dispute? She choked out between fake sobs. That day, while I was charging my electric scooter, the battery suddenly detonated like a bomb, leaving them both mangled and hospitalized. I only came to ask this young man for the purchase invoice, but he's heartlessly refusing to help me. You tell me, he must be in league with those crooked manufacturers. Right. The officer stood there, completely floored, utterly bewildered by her twisted logic. Hold on. What are you even talking about? If your battery exploded inside your own home, what on earth does that have to do with this man? A sharp voice pierced through the crowd. I'll tell you what, this old lady Lin stole his battery. Now that her crime backfired, she's trying to extort him. It's the ultimate case of a thief playing the victim. Mother Lin shot a murderous look at the onlookers, instantly falling silent as she looked down, fidgeting with her fingers. The veteran officer had clearly dealt with her kind before. The look he shot my way was brimming with genuine sympathy. You give us your side of the story. I met his gaze with total composure. My bike was indeed stolen. I verified it on CCTV and attempted to track it. To this very day, not a shred of evidence exists, and the culprit remains completely at large. She can weave whatever fairy tale she wants. But as for the claim that she swiped my battery, where is the definitive proof? Does that battery have my signature engraved on it? Otherwise, I have every justification to suspect that since she's drowning in medical debt, she's hunting for a scapegoat to extort for cash. Auntie Lynn, so many residents have lost bikes lately. So why are you hell-bent on framing me? I put on a masterclass performance of being heartbroken and wronged. Mother Lynn stared at me in pure shock, her jaw hitting the floor. Finally, after grueling hours of police mediation and persuasion, I was officially cleared of any responsibility in this mess. And she was forced to temporarily abandon her delusional quest for my purchase invoice. I honestly believed the nightmare was over. But just as the officers were preparing to head out, she actually lunged forward and seized them. Her face was beet red and visibly bloated, and she began to stammer with desperate hesitation. Fine, if you won't let me squeeze him for money. Then I guess I'll have to accept that. But what about my family's mounting medical bills? La dumnitamis. I don't have a single cent to fund their survival. Isn't your official slogan, the people's police for the people? See, don't just give me empty lip service. We are the citizens too. And citizens in dire need of a lifeline. Since that's the reality, you officers should be organizing a massive donation drive. Specifically for me, otherwise, you're just henchmen for evil forces oppressing the poor. And I will report your misconduct to the highest level. The rookie officer stood there completely paralyzed. He had never encountered anyone so fundamentally unhinged. The veteran officer patiently warned, regardless, you cannot behave this way. Multiple witnesses in the crowd just mentioned that you are the prime suspect for the original theft. If he uncovers proof, he can actually drag you to court. Furthermore, we've issued countless warnings that indoor charging is a lethal hazard and strictly forbidden. You brought this catastrophe entirely upon yourself. You are simply reaping the bitter seeds you sowed. Mother Lynn spiraled into a state of total desperation. When the police tried to depart, she physically barricaded them. She even began aggressively clawing and pulling at their gear, eventually ripping a silver button clean off the rookie's uniform. Panic button. Even the black tactical undershirt he wore beneath was exposed. As the rookie officer struggled to maintain composure, his patrol cap was knocked sideways, sitting crooked on his head. His expression darkened with absolute fury. You're roughly the same age as my own grandmother, so I'm not going to get physical with you. But you cannot use your age as a shield to break the law. Unhand me this instant, or I will officially charge you with assaulting a peace officer. The old hag was betting everything on the idea they were powerless against her, so she doubled down, causing a massive unhinged scene with the cops. I don't give a damn if you don't force this community and your precinct to cough up donations for my family's surgery today. Not a single one of you is walking away from here. As she shrieked, her physical assault became even more violent. The veteran officer didn't waste another breath on words, silently unholstering the high-grade pepper spray from his tactical vest. He barked at her, I gave you a direct order to let go. Do you have any idea what the fallout for attacking an officer is? I dare you to shove him one more time. I will use the full extent of my authorized power to neutralize you with defensive pepper spray. The second that threat hung in the air, the surrounding mob of onlookers instantly scattered in panic, myself included. Good grief. That professional-grade pepper spray is pure nightmare fuel. Forget the agonizing fire on your skin and in your retinas. If that stuff even grazes your clothing, it'll make you feel like your soul is leaving your body. As brainless as Mother Lynn appeared to be, she still possessed a primal fear of that level of physical agony. She decisively retracted her claws and released him. The two officers exchanged a weary glance and made their exit. I stared at her, laughing hysterically in the back of my mind. She lost this skirmish. She lost everything, plain and simple. Not only did this cement her legacy as a common thief, but it also dragged her delusional, twisted scheme to make me her medical piggy bank into the light. The public isn't stupid, their eyes are razor sharp. Now, even that rude property manager, who had a heated spat with me before, glared at this parasitic Mother Lynn, with eyes brimming with pure, unadulterated disgust. Once the police cruisers finally pulled away, all eyes were locked onto Mother Lynn standing in the middle of the street. The neighbors began to hiss and whisper, good heavens, how does our community end up with trash like this? What kind of absolute circus is this woman running? Never in my life have I seen anyone this cursed. The poor guy's bike gets jacked. The thief gets slapped by karma and then has the gall to blame the victim. Auntie, instead of wasting your breath throwing a public tantrum, maybe you should try your luck begging for money online. Take this as a brutal reality check for yourself. Try keeping your hands clean for once in your life. Don't end up becoming a meme like Mother Lynn. Perhaps my expression was a bit too transparent, because even she could detect the pure schadenfreude in my gaze. Standing as the target of everyone's absolute scorn, Mother Lin shot me a murderous glare. Keep on laughing. I'll see exactly how long you can maintain that smug face. That battery is a goddamn curse, and you're nothing but a walking jinx. Swiping your battery truly was my cosmic retribution. This isn't over by a long shot. After spitting out those venomous words, she shoved through the spectators and limped away into the distance. I genuinely believed that was the final chapter of this saga. Turns out I was being hopelessly naive. From that day forward, all sorts of vile garbage started manifesting right at my doorstep without any explanation. The biohazards included, but weren't limited to rotting household waste, vile kitchen and bathroom refuse, hazardous medical waste, jagged construction debris, and even nauseating stains of phlegm smeared all over the handle of my security door. Initially, I tried to convince myself it was just a fluke, but the calculated, repetitive nature of these attacks forced me to face the ugly reality. This was unmistakably Old Lady Lin's petty revenge, since she realized I wouldn't be her easy mark, or provide her a path to extort a single cent. She resorted to these disgusting bottom-tier psychological tactics. This Old Lady Lin is a real piece of work. Her entire family is rotting in a hospital ward, yet she still finds the stamina to come out and harass me. I covertly installed a high-definition video doorbell. Every single depraved act she committed at my entrance was captured in crystal-clear digital proof. I broadcasted the footage directly into the residents' group chat and aggressively tagged the property management team. A neighbor instantly identified the shadowy figure in the clip. It was none other than that spiteful Old Lady Lin targeting me. The entire group chat erupted publicly, dragging her for her insanity. An older woman who works as a nurse also joined the fray. Let me tell you something. How is it possible that no one has checked on her family in so long? It seems Old Lady Lin has shifted her entire focus toward harassing you. I sat up fully alert. Sis, what exactly are you getting at? She let out a weary sigh and began unraveling the grim details. That family is completely broke with zero funds for medical care, and the hospital has been relentlessly hounding them for payment. Old Lady Lin's solution was simple. She stopped showing up. She straight up abandoned her frail, helpless son and husband at the hospital like yesterday's trash. Even though the hospital was forced to terminate their treatment, those two poor souls are still clinging to life. The facility can't exactly toss them into the street with everyone watching. They have no choice but to let them occupy the beds, doing the bare minimum just to keep them from flatlining. Now Old Lady Lin is living her best life completely unbothered. The nurse mentioned, the last time she spotted her at the ward was 5 full days ago. 5 grueling days already. I honestly wonder if those critical patients will starve to death first. The moment she finished her explanation, the group chat erupted as everyone began roasting her into oblivion. The digital flaming reached an absolute white-hot intensity. But the main attraction of this drama, Mother Lin, seemed to have adopted a nothing-to-lose mentality. She actually had the audacity to exit the residents' group chat. I couldn't help but laugh. She clearly plans to ignore the public outrage and take me on alone. From that point forward, every single time she dumped filth at my entrance or defiled my door with spit, I dialed the authorities without a second's hesitation. After several confrontations, the police practically became regulars, mediating the ongoing war between Old Lady Lin and me. During the final call, the responding officer sighed and gave me some unofficial advice. While he didn't state it outright, his subtle implication was that I should stop wasting their time with these petty disputes. He basically told me to handle it myself if I could. After this ordeal, combined with the officer's half-hearted persuasion and veiled threats, Old Lady Lin finally ceased her biological warfare on my door. Instead, she regressed back to her primitive thieving instincts. I'm not a fan of cooking, so the stove in my apartment is practically a decorative piece. Whenever hunger hits, I just rely on takeout delivery, but when my third consecutive time I discovered my takeout had been swiped, my mind instantly flashed to that hag Old Lady Lin. The moment I caught her red-handed at my doorstep, she was death-gripping the pork and preserved egg congee and the fresh flatbread I'd just ordered. I barked, "What the hell are you doing? Why are you jacking my food? Are your sticky fingers ever going to stay clean? Did you seriously learn nothing from the last disaster?" Old Lady Lin, with her frazzled salt and pepper hair, began shrieking back at me with zero shame. "What proof do you have that this belongs to you? Does it have your damn name engraved on it? This is the meal I specifically ordered for my husband and son." A few neighbors poked their heads out eager for the drama. I rolled my eyes so hard it hurt. At your age, you've still got the audacity to run your mouth. Do you even have a clue how to use a delivery app? Do you even know which icon to tap on your phone? Can you even navigate a menu or process a digital payment? You want cold hard evidence? Fine. Look at the receipt stapled right on top. If the customer name and the last 4 digits of the phone number don't match mine, then what's your excuse? Besides, your husband and son must be living a nightmare. 2 grown men forced to share a single bowl of porridge. If you're so broke, you're literally starving. Just go out on the street and beg for scraps like a pro. The hallway erupted into a chorus of mocking laughter. Old Lady Lin suddenly ripped the receipt into shreds and aggressively stuffed them into her pocket. She put on a stern front, preparing to bolt. I'm done with your nonsense. This is my property period. I don't care what you say if you keep talking smack. If you keep running that mouth, I'll tear it right off your face. She hopped around in a fit of indignant rage. I instinctively took half a step back, but she didn't actually make a move on me. Instead, she nimbly and calculatedly sprinted down the stairwell like a track star. She didn't move like a woman pushing 70 at all. Staring at her retreating figure, it hit me that she had completely pivoted her strategy, graduating from stealing batteries to being a full-time takeout thief. To get my ultimate revenge, I cooked up a truly diabolical master plan. I placed another order for a spicy feast. This time, I intercepted the driver right outside the kitchen. He tapped delivered and gave me a puzzled look. Yo man, if you're picking this up in person, why even bother with the app shit? I watched the receipt fluttering like a flag in the breeze. My eyes narrowed as a wicked grin played on my lips. No, you don't quite understand the situation. I hit up the nearest apothecary and scored half a kilo of potent croton seeds. I had them pulverized into a lethal fine powder and thoroughly stirred it into the babao porridge I just ordered. I grabbed a random twig from the pavement and gave it a vigorous mix. Now the trap was completely invisible to the naked eye. Once the prep work was done, I skillfully evaded the security cams and doubled back. I stealthily dropped the takeout bag right at my entrance and slipped inside, locking the door behind me. Like clockwork, a few minutes later, through the digital peephole, that notorious shadowy figure slinked into view. Perhaps she was terrified of getting busted red-handed again, because she didn't waste a single second lingering. She snatched the bait and bolted like a professional thief. In her desperate rush to escape, she actually stumbled because she was moving too fast, nearly sending my special recipe flying across the hallway. I sat on my sofa clutching my phone and losing my absolute mind laughing. When I finally crossed paths with Old Lady Lin again, it was already 3 agonizing days later. For the past 72 hours, I finally enjoyed warm, undisturbed meals. My deliveries hadn't vanished a single time. This was the ultimate proof of who the real takeout bandit was. That evening, I had just finished showering and was mid-boss fight when a sudden violent pounding erupted against my door. Looks like the goddess of misfortune has finally come to visit. I exited my game and swung the door open immediately. What's with the ruckus? I found Old Lady Lin standing there looking deathly pale, with 2 property managers looming behind her and 2 uniformed police officers bringing up the rear. Interesting. I see the full picture. It looks like she's the one trying to weaponize the law against me now. Honestly, calling the feds over every minor inconvenience. They're public servants, not her personal squad of bodyguards. Old Lady Lin jabbed a finger toward my face and began a frantic rant. It's him. This brat has a blood feud against me. He laced his own takeout with deadly poison. That's why I was stuck on the toilet for days after finding it. It wasn't just diarrhea. My stomach and legs were cramping in agony. Officer, listen. I've done my research. What he did constitutes the serious crime of poisoning, Takeout. The only reason I'm standing here is because of my iron constitution. I'm the victim who consumed it. But if someone more fragile had eaten that, who knows the body count? The police officers on the scene were 2 completely fresh faces. They likely had no clue about our chaotic history, or the kind of manipulative parasite Old Lady Lin truly was. Right now, they were eyeing me like I was a high-profile criminal. Explain your side of the story clearly. Otherwise, we'll be forced to treat this as an intentional poisoning. You're so young. Why would you throw your life away like this? I immediately donned a mask of pure wide-eyed innocence, raising my hands in a defensive gesture. Whoa! I'm the victim here, officers. I'm completely innocent. Actually, I'm the one who is baffled as to why the takeout I ordered to my own front door would end up in the hands of Old Lady Lin, who lives in another building. If she supposedly took it by mistake, surely she can distinguish her own home from a total stranger's. I flashed a guiltless smile. Just dissect the logic of what she just said. Can anyone here explain to me how I could possibly poison her via my own private meal? The officers exchanged a telling glance, likely piecing together the exact nature of this circus. This was clearly just a serial takeout thief getting nerfed by a fed-up owner. And now this thief actually had the audacity to demand a payout. With that, I pulled up my delivery app and turned the screen. Here is my specific order history from earlier. Since Mother Lin claims she's the one who bought it, then she should have no problem showing the receipt on her phone. Under the weight of everyone's stares, she began to visibly panic. She started spewing desperate nonsense. I don't even own a smartphone. The neighbors spectating from the hallway erupted into mockery. No phone yet. She's out here placing digital delivery orders. Did she manifest that kanji with her mind or something? She really ran into a brick wall this time. This guy is a legend. Sumanasai Grandma-chan. Absolutely nobody is coming to your rescue now. Their savage remarks. Their words drifted through the air like live bullet chat comments, ringing clearly in my ears. It was so comical I had to fight the urge to burst out laughing. She grit her teeth, her face twisting in rage. Fine, I'll admit I was starving, and was forced to take your food to survive. But does that give you the right to try and kill me? Do you have even the slightest clue? My insides felt like they were being shredded. If I hadn't crawled to the clinic for an emergency IV drip, you'd be looking at a corpse right now. Honestly, not seeing you ever again would be a dream come true. Who in their right mind even wants to see you? I secretly rolled my eyes in total disgust. I feigned deep concern. Are you alright, goodness? Now that I think about it, this is entirely my fault. I've been suffering from chronic constipation for ages. So I had my dad pick up some potent laxatives for me. I was simply mixing them into my congee to get things moving. As for why the bag was sitting outside, I blinked with mock innocence. Is it suddenly a crime to let my scorching food cool down? I knew that, even though my excuse was full of holes, the police could easily distinguish right from wrong. So they weren't about to make life difficult for me. Sure enough, old lady Lynn was forced to choke down her frustration. While the officers gave me a performative, stern warning, she didn't walk away with a single cent from her extortion attempt. She arrived like a total loser and slunk away like one too. As she retreated, she was still clutching her abdomen in agony. Suddenly, with a massive thunderous blast of gas, she began sprinting even faster than before, leaving both the bewildered officers in her dust. Honestly, it's only because I'm actually a decent person that I stopped at croton powder. If she'd crossed a real psychopath who had laced that food with rat poison, she'd be 6 feet under with no one to blame. After that chaotic showdown, my daily life finally became much more tranquil. Sometimes during a bored moment, I catch myself wondering, did her family ever receive actual medical care? What is her endgame? Does she seriously expect to scavenge enough cardboard to clear those mountain-high medical debts? But that was just idle speculation. If the neighborhood actually organized a charity drive for a literal malevolent spirit like her, I'd probably only donate a thick glob of spit into the collection box. The fact that I haven't done it yet is my ultimate act of mercy. One day, that nurse in the community group chat spoke up again. She dropped a total bombshell on all of us. Old lady Lynn's husband and son have officially resumed their treatment. Apparently, a mysterious woman appeared and wiped out their debt, even prepaying a massive fortune for their future care. We were all absolutely floored. Could there be some hidden drama behind all of this? And just who was this mystery benefactor? A few days later, I finally came face to face with the answer. While brushing my teeth in the morning haze, I pulled up the doorbell surveillance feed as per my routine. I was stunned to see a figure standing directly in front of the lens. It was a young woman. I could tell even through the grainy feed that she was strikingly beautiful. I spat out the toothpaste in shock. I swung the door open. She seemed visibly jolted by my sudden appearance. How did you realize someone was lurking out here? I leaned out and gestured toward the device. It's a smart surveillance camera? She let out a shaky sigh of relief, but her posture immediately stiffened again. She was so overwhelmed with nerves, she seemed paralyzed. I lounged against the doorframe, waiting for her to find her voice. Just as my patience was reaching its limit, she cast her gaze downward and began anxiously fidgeting. I came to offer a sincere apology on my mother's behalf. I was absolutely floored. Your mother, she gave a solemn nod. The property managers filled me in on the whole mess. I waved my hand in a dismissive gesture. You're telling me that old lady Lynn is actually your mom. But didn't she claim her only child was a son with cerebral palsy? The girl let out a heavy sigh, leaning against the security bars as she unraveled her history. Turns out she really was the biological daughter of old lady Lynn. That disabled son was indeed her sibling as well. He was in fact her elder brother. It's just that old lady Lynn harbored a toxic flaw, an extreme traditional obsession with sons over daughters. The girl endured a childhood of endless misery and neglect, with absolutely no one to protect her. She finally mustered the courage to flee that hellhole at 15, to seek work in a distant city. In all the years following her disappearance, her family never bothered to look for her once. They only reached out recently because of the explosion. Upon her return, she discovered the grim reality that her brother had suffered a total mental collapse in his 20s. He was lured into a sham marriage and swindled out of his life savings. Even the son he thought was his belonged to another man. The psychological trauma was too much, leaving him mentally broken. The girl paused, reflecting for a moment. Technically, my brother's diagnosis isn't cerebral palsy. It's a profound intellectual disability. I nodded in comprehension. After all, to an average person lacking medical knowledge, those conditions often look identical from the outside. She flashed a hollow, bitter smile. She had been estranged for so many years that she wanted zero involvement in their chaotic lives. But her mother, the relentless old lady Lynn, somehow managed to track down her exact workplace and home address. She stormed the premises and ignited a massive scandal, shamelessly hanging up smear banners outside the building, shrieking to the world that she was an ungrateful, cold-hearted child who abandoned her dying father and brother in their darkest hour of need. The girl is naturally soft-hearted and lacks a silver tongue. Despite her desperate explanations, her company turned a blind eye. Backed into a corner, she was forced to hand in her resignation. Under her mother's toxic coercion, she marched to the hospital to settle their mounting debts and cater to her mother's demands. As she unraveled her story, 2 streaks of tears traced down her cheeks. Do you have any idea? My mother spat words at me that will haunt me until the day I die. She told me no matter how far I run, she's still my mother. That by blood alone, she has the right to leech off me forever. She's like a venomous serpent slowly constricting its coils, clinging to me with a suffocating deathly grip, draining every last drop of life from my soul. I looked at her, my heart heavy with genuine sympathy. I've had my own run-ins with that woman, so I know firsthand exactly what a delusional psycho she is. But in a situation, this messy words felt cheap. Watching her offer such a dejected, humble apology, I tried my best to offer some solid comfort. Look, don't let her break you. You'll find a way out of this cage. Every human being is their own person. From the second you take your first breath, your life belongs to you. I tried to recite a powerful quote I'd seen on a show once. You were born to be a towering mountain, not a lowly wandering stream. You gaze down from the summit, Ilshas, or something like that. The girl let out a small watery chuckle despite her grief. I am born to be a high mountain, not a bubbling brook. I stand upon the grand peaks looking down at the insignificant ravines. I flash her a cheeky impressed grin. Okay, you're the real deal. You're highly educated, aren't you? She nodded modestly. Yeah, I pushed through self-study exams while working full-time. I'm actually a PhD candidate now. Whoa, for real, that is straight up badass. The girl continued to apologize profusely, even pulling out her phone to transfer cash for a brand new scooter. The scooter, honestly, I'd nearly scrubbed that from my memory. I waved her off immediately. Forget the money for the scooter. I moved on from those rides a long time ago anyway. Cycling is the move now. It's perfect for cardio and staying lean. As for the payout, keep your money. You need it more than I do. She offered a soft smile and a grateful nod, dropping that legendary cliche, you're truly a good person. I was legitimately stunned, staggering backward in mock horror. Whoa, hold up. Don't you dare pull the good person card on me yet. The tension broke and we both burst into genuine laughter. Just before she made her exit, the girl revealed that as soon as her father and brother are cleared to leave the hospital, they're moving out. This place was only a temporary rental for them. But thanks to Mother Lynn's toxic, unbearable personality, neighbors had been bombarding the office with reports, every single day for a dozen different reasons. The property management was ultimately left with no choice but to escalate the situation to the landlord. The landlord didn't hesitate for a second and decided to terminate the lease of such a nightmare tenant, claiming her presence was a total blight on his property. The girl paused, reflecting. I want to head back to my hometown. We're originally from Siwa village, maybe by retreating to the countryside. Can my mom finally stop clashing with every neighbor she sees? When she feels like throwing one of her infamous tantrums, she'll have to watch her step and be a lot more cautious. After all that village is packed with feisty old ladies who won't give an inch to anyone. I let out a thoughtful, It's called, the girl smirked, finishing my thought, dog eat dog. And just as expected, after the girl departed that day, I never crossed paths with the troublemaking Mother Lynn again. On the rare occasion I'd spot her and the daughter downstairs, they'd simply brush past me in a frantic hurry, as if we were nothing more than total strangers. Honestly, that's the ideal outcome. Let's just pretend this whole ordeal never happened. Once a bit more time had slipped by, the girl shot me a final message, letting me know her dad and brother had been discharged. That entire family was officially vacating the premises, even though Mother Lynn was beyond livid about the move and fought tooth and nail against returning to the rural life, without the luxury of modern toilets and showers. The girl was now the undisputed breadwinner of the household. Every cent and every decision now flowed through her, leaving the old lady no choice but to obey and head back. That notorious evil spirit who had terrorized our building had finally been exorcised and moved away. The news spread like wildfire in the residents' group chat. On the day Mother Lynn's moving truck finally pulled out, all of us who had been victimized by her schemes teamed up and pooled our money for a massive string of firecrackers. We chased the truck down the street celebrating her departure in style, lit a barrage of firecrackers to celebrate her finally being purged from our neighborhood. The other residents who used to preach about keeping the peace and were too intimidated to speak out despite their fury all erupted into thunderous clapping and cheering. Mother Lynn was absolutely fuming, but with her husband and son confined in the car, it wasn't exactly easy for her to hop out and brawl with us. She could only sit there silently vibrating with rage. On the contrary, quite the opposite. The daughter leaned out of the car window to watch us, and didn't forget to flash a genuine smile. After Mother Lynn's clan vanished, I didn't really maintain any contact with the girl. To be blunt, we simply live in two entirely different worlds. The next time she reached out was half a year later. The girl sent me a single chilling message. Bro, my entire family is dead. I'm the only survivor left. I was grinding at work at the time. When I checked my phone to slack off for a second, I was left completely and utterly dumbfounded. Even my breathing hitched for several agonizing seconds. Truthfully, along with a sudden violent jolt to the heart, there was a profound sense of shock and raw disbelief. 3 lives snuffed out just like that. What the hell happened? Not long after I fired off that question, she sent me a grainy surveillance video. Judging by the angle it appeared to be, footage from their local Shiwa village, unlike the primitive backwater I had pictured, it looked like a fairly prosperous rural community. At the very least, the neighbor resided in a 2-story villa with white bricks and red tiles. The footage clearly captured the entire incident. Mother Lin stealthily lopping off a bunch of vegetable-like leaves sitting on the neighbor's wall before brazenly hauling them away. In the voice memo the girl sent afterward, besides a hint of dark schadenfreude, I could vaguely detect a sense of liberation. Sigh. If only it were that simple. In reality, it went like this. As she meticulously reconstructed the events, the grim truth gradually became clear. It turns out that old lady Lin never managed to cure her pathological thieving habit. She was a parasite in the city, and she remained a parasite in the countryside. The neighbor was cultivating a pot of beautifully blooming daffodils, and the lush leaves were even spilling over the garden wall, dangling right in front of her greedy face. In Mother Lin's twisted worldview, the edge of that wall was the ultimate boundary line. Anything that breached that wall was hers for the taking. Didn't matter if it was leaves, blossoms, or fruit. Hell, if the sun dared to set over that wall, she'd likely try to shroud the neighbor's side in darkness, to hoard every single ray of her sunlight. But Mother Lin's ignorance was her final downfall, as she actually, for the first time in her life, mistook those toxic daffodil leaves for fresh chives and butchered the entire plant. The neighbor's once vibrant daffodils were stripped down until they looked like bare garlic bulbs. Paranoid about getting busted for her theft, Mother Lin scrambled home and whipped up a batch of dumplings. She scrubbed the crime scene clean and served her frail son and husband over 40 chive and pork-filled death traps. She refused to eat a single bite to save them for her precious men, and she strictly forbade the girl from touching them either. She sneered that if that food entered the girl's stomach, it would be nothing but a waste of resources. Why waste good food on you? She had barked. The girl chuckled darkly. I even fought with her over it, asking her whose stomach wouldn't turn it into waste. But looking back at it now, I honestly owe her for giving me a second chance at life. If she hadn't been so biased and cruel, I'd be lying in a casket right now too. I remained silent, absorbing the grim details. Mere moments after ingesting those lethal leaves, the 2 men succumbed to the violent poisoning. The toxin is notoriously fast-acting and aggressive, and given their already shattered immune systems, the poison tore through their bodies like wildfire. Before they could even scramble to dial emergency services, their lips had been stained a horrific shade of purple, and their hearts had stopped beating forever. Mother Lin completely lost her mind. She couldn't fathom how her usual routine, greedily snatching every small advantage she could, had resulted in the accidental execution of her own family. After the town's funeral van hauled the bodies away, Mother Lin retreated back into her home and spotted the leftover toxic filling for the next batch. Even knowing it was tainted with poison, her pathological cheapness was so deeply ingrained that she simply couldn't stand to see it go to waste. She grit her teeth in a final act of madness and fed every last bit to the chickens in her coop. Fantastic, now she's managed to wipe out a whole flock of chickens too. I was absolutely floored. Good grief. Is she some kind of budget real-life Breaking Bad? Now the local rumors have reached a fever pitch. The entire village is branding her a poisonous black widow. First, she snuffs out her husband and her disabled son, who were already fighting for every breath in their hospital beds. Then she proceeds to toxic bomb the family's livestock. What's next? Is she going to poison the communal well? The village chief was shaking in his boots as well. He never imagined that by granting them residency, he was essentially inviting a literal goddess of plagues into his home. As for Mother Lin, that woman, the crushing weight of losing her entire family, combined with the brutal village gossip, was too much to bear. Even though she still had her daughter providing support, in her twisted mind, this worthless daughter could never hold a candle to her precious idiot son and her spineless husband. So, on a quiet afternoon, while the girl was away hauling water, Mother Lin finally ended her own life. She died by poisoning, fittingly enough. As for the specific cause of her demise, it's because right before she checked out, she gorged herself on those rotting tainted chickens that had been killed by the lethal daffodil toxins. Mother Lin had apparently claimed she didn't want to wander the afterlife as a hungry ghost. This whole saga is just too surreal to process. If the girl hadn't recounted every detail word for word, I would have thought my own ears were playing tricks on me. Does a person this unhinged truly exist in our reality? I tried to steady my nerves and tentatively asked, "So, what's your next move?" The girl let out a long, weary exhale. "I'll be fine. My neighbor is actually a decent human being, and their family is quite affluent. Even though none of this was legally their fault, they told me that since their daffodils spilled over the wall to begin with, which sparked my mom's fatal impulse to steal, and seeing that I didn't try to extort them or sue out of pure humanitarian compassion. They compensated me with a 50,000 yuan settlement. Wait, just 50,000. 3 entire lives are only valued at 50,000 yuan. I couldn't help but feel a wave of complex emotions. The girl whispered. She had previously taken a leave of absence to deal with her family's mess, but now she's heading back to the academy to resume her studies. If luck is on her side, she'll secure a spot in a postdoc program. If the stars don't align, she'll just hunt for a high-level position after graduation. I gave a simple nod, offered a few generic words of comfort, and kept the conversation brief. As time passed, I caught fleeting glimpses of her journey through her social media feed, just like any other random acquaintance, who briefly drifted into her orbit and ended up on her contact list. I watched her successfully earn her postdoc, find her soulmate, tie the knot, and welcome a new life. Following those milestones, our connection essentially hit a permanent plateau. Our entire chat history remains frozen on that final day, the day she delivered the grim news of Mother Lin's demise. A woman with such a brilliant, shimmering future should never have been shackled by such a parasitic family. Perhaps the total wipeout of her bloodline wasn't necessarily a tragedy for her in the long run. After all, a deadbeat father, a mentally broken brother, and a delusional, toxic mother, it's a recipe for disaster, and they would have done nothing but anchor her to the bottom. If her family hadn't been completely erased from the board, how could she have ever pursued her dream of becoming a PhD? Late one night, while spiraling into my own thoughts, I couldn't help but ponder a theory far more sinister. Could the sudden deaths of those other 3 actually be tied back to the girl herself? In the end, every single detail regarding their deaths was strictly based on her personal narrative. But I quickly shook the thought from my head. Even if I uncovered the ultimate truth, what would change? This is someone else's family drama buried in the past. All that matters now is that I keep my own life on track.